Mr. Nick, you are here, man. How are you?
I'm great, man. I'm great. How you
I'm
doing,
doing
Anthony?
awesome, man. I'm so happy to spend this time with you and hear about your story. So let's start from the end. Where are you going to school, and when are you going there?
I am choosing to go to Brown University to get my MFA in drama. It's technically Brown Trinity Rep because Trinity Rep is the is the local theater there. So Brown Trinity Rep is the
Yeah,
official name.
it is awesome. It is very cool. Very good school. Love the collaboration between those two institutions. I can't wait for you to go there. You've earned it. So let's get into some of the journey, shall we?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now I want to go to the opposite side,
Mhm.
from the very beginning, before you ever met us or anything like this. Like, when did you make the decision that you wanted to audition?
Ooh, man, what is this? What is this year? 2022? I can never tell anymore.
Yeah.
So for the longest time, uh, I was definitely a person that I didn't grow up wanting to be an actor. I didn't grow up necessarily wanting even to be in entertainment in general.
Hmm.
But right when COVID started, that's when I oddly enough caught the acting bug, and I had this I had this mindset that I was like, I don't need school, I don't need training. I can just show up and just be me and just figure it out as I go. And that did not work. Um, it worked. It worked enough.
I was gonna say there was something about it that was necessary.
Right, right.
Yeah, you have to take imperfect steps forward.
Right, right. And I was very much in that mindset. I had booked a couple national commercials just almost right away. And I was like, oh, like, yeah, I'm just gonna do this thing. And it was like one of those things. It's like the more I did the commercials, it was just like, okay, commercials are fun, but they're not necessarily acting. It's a lot of being able to sell yourself, and you're acting in a way, but it's completely different from plays, completely different from film. And so after about a year and a half, I was like, okay, no, I want to actually like get good. I want to be really great. And so I was just looking at different routes. I was like, okay, I could start taking classes. um I can, start writing my own stuff. I can start directing my own stuff. I could, and then one of the last realizations was like, okay, I could also go to drama school. And this was
Wow.
about March 2021. So like around March, April was when the drama school bug started, kind of nipping at me.
There you go. And when you were thinking about it, were you thinking like what schools were on your radar at that time? And how did you get to like choose the schools that you ultimately decided to apply to?
Yeah. So the schools that were on my radar, UC San Diego, Brown, UC Irvine, Yale, um, and NYU. I think those were the five. Those, yeah.
Nice. And did you have any like relationships, like people who had gone to those schools? Like usually, or not usually, but sometimes, when we audition, we either have a friend who encouraged us, or it's part of like the culture of the school we were in that we all auditioned for job. Like, how did you
Mhm.
connect with people who were already kind of in that environment, if you did at
Yeah.
all?
Yeah. So when I was in New York right before COVID, and so leading up until that point, kind of backtracking, I was in New York from around 2017 to 2020, the end of 2016 to 2020. And when I moved there, I ended up getting into an apartment where everybody was in film. one of my roommates was a director, one roommate was a gaffer, one was an AC, and I think the other one was also a gaffer. And they pretty much opened the door to, hey, like you can actually make money doing art and making movies. And so through them, I was also able to meet other actors that were like steadily making money just acting. And through those connections, having conversations with people and then being like, I'm considering drama school. And so they were able to connect me with people that they knew that had went to a couple of these schools. I'm the type of person, when I want to do something, I do as much research as I possibly can. And so a lot of it was also just scouring the web. And the main things that I looked for were how diverse the faculty was and how successful their actors of color were after school.
Nice.
And so I was really just focused on, and more specifically, their black actors, how successful they were after they graduated, and the type of resources they had after graduation, because I knew from the bat that getting into drama school was not the end all be all goal.
Right.
I was not going to put all of my being and all of my worth into getting into drama school and then just sitting there and be like, oh, wow, okay, I got in. Wow, I did it. Now what? It's like,
yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah. And so I was very intentional on this being a step, just literally just a step to that next thing, whatever the next thing was.
Yeah, exactly. And you are a great person to hear from, because so many students, including myself, I went to a BFA program, so I was like 17 or whatever when I was auditioning, but even MFA applicants who are past college still believe that, that this is the end all be all, or that, it's some sort of ticket to like success or something. And what I think that is special about your story is that, and some others too, you had exposure to the industry prior to applying. Mm-hmm. And so you realize like, no, I can make money, without having drama school education, et cetera, et cetera. And obviously we know people who are successful actors and all that stuff who do not have drama school experience or don't have traditional drama school experience. So it's nice that you're viewing this as a step in your overall journey, because the growth never stops, right?
Never. I was having coffee with a director friend of mine the other week, and he was laughing because he went to film school in Oklahoma. Excuse me. And he was saying usually people go to film school, learn the technical things, and then go out in the real world and actually learn their skill. And he was like, but you, Nick, you're doing it the opposite way. He's like, you just threw yourself into the industry, did a couple jobs, and now you're wanting to go to school.
Yeah. You could call you were a professional actor, and then you're improving yourself by using drama school as a tool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's great.
And I think and this is my own personal opinion, I think doing it the way that I did it, I think I'm going to get more out of it because I kind of know how the industry is. And I know that as great and as talented as somebody can be, you also have to have a lot of other components. You also have to be business minded. You also have to be willing and able to put yourself out there and talk to people and make connections and maintaining relationships and juggling your personal life and doing auditions and potentially having another side gig until, it's like, it's all
gotta kind of work together.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Hello, my cat's in the This is Binks.
Hey Binks, are we doing pets? We can do pets
Yeah,
later.
yeah,
I have a
please.
pet. But she's not allowed in my room. And so if I tell her to come in here, she'll be like, I don't, is this
There's something wrong. Yeah, like what's the lure?
right? So we'll do it at the end.
That's awesome. Let's do it. All right, so let's get into some prep.
Yeah.
You had to choose monologues, right? How did you find your monologues? Where did you go?
Yeah. So um in my pursuit of auditioning, or after I made the decision that I was going to audition for drama schools, I was, looking at coaching. I was like, okay, I need a coach. Everybody that I've talked to that has gotten into these drama schools, they're like, you need coaching. You need coaching.
Right.
You need coaching. Do not think that you can go in there and just be yourself and practice some monologues and be prepared.
Right.
And so I was just like, okay. I did a course with Terry Knickerbocker. He owns a studio in Brooklyn, Terry Knickerbocker Studios. He is incredible. If not, y'all, I highly, this is a plug for him because I absolutely love him to death. But Terry Knickerbocker, and he kind of turned me on to some plays. Being as how I didn't have a lot of experience with plays. I mainly read screenplays and movies. And so he really told me about a lot of plays. And then when I found y'all, I stumbled upon the video with, I think it was John, on YouTube. And
like the Yale Q&A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I emailed y'all, and you graciously hopped on a call with me, and you also sent me kind of a breakdown of plays. So it was a mix of my own research and Terry and you. And that's pretty much how I comprise my list of monologues.
This is a great insight because, we think, well, where am I going to get my monologues? Well, I'm going to go online. And it's just like, you have so many resources available to you. You can ask mentors. You can ask, just ask, like you said, put yourself out there, and, you found pieces across your desk from various different sources. So I think that's a really good lesson for people.
Yeah, I think if now looking back on it, when I was doing it myself, I was finding a lot of, I had it in my mind that I wanted to do plays from Black playwrights. And what I was finding, it was a lot of the same things that I'm personally not interested in telling, like the stories,
right?
Whether they were period pieces, and a lot of times when they're period pieces and they're telling stories about people of color, it's a lot of kind of like oppression and kind of basically the same kind of themes. And I didn't want to come from that place.
You wanted to explore more.
Yeah. And it was because for me, it was like, that's kind of been my life. And I want to showcase other parts of me that aren't evident, or that aren't as evident as me being a Black man in America. And so when I was by myself, it was like, oh God, I'm really frustrated. I'm just finding a lot of the same things. And then you and Terry kind of opened my eyes to a whole nother world of, this character doesn't have to be white. It doesn't have to be Black. It's the story. Does the story connect? And I remember you said to me when we were on the phone, and you were like, you'll know when you read the first couple sentences, or when you read the last couple. It's like you were like,
you'll pick it up quick.
And the last couple sentences
will
like hit you. and you'll feel something. And it was like, after you said that, I was like, oh, wow, like that is so true. So true.
Do you remember reading one that you felt like, oh, this is me, this is what I'm going to do?
Yeah. I read Nikki's monologue in the Vortex by Noel Coward. And it was basically him talking about how his mother wasn't necessarily there for him. And it was just like, oh, and it was like a couple of days after I had gotten into like a little disagreement with my own mom.
Wow.
And yeah, it was just like, oh, so this is okay. So this is what they mean when they talk about the process. Okay.
Interesting. All right. You're getting into the process now.
Yeah.
The method.
Whew.
Man, yeah. Okay, cool. So you choosing some monologues. You're being told to choose some classical pieces.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking Shakespeare. Had you had experience with Shakespeare before?
Anthony, I had zero. I had not read a Shakespeare play. I had not done anything Shakespeare.
And you still got into drama school?
I still got look at that. It's possible.
Let the people know.
It is totally possible. But I think for a long time, a lot of people of color, mainly Black people, I feel like Shakespeare has been that kind of way to gatekeep acting from people of color. Obviously, things are changing, but if the way that I grew up, it was like if somebody came to my school putting on a Shakespeare play, a lot of us would be like, what is this?
Right.
I don't understand what they're saying. It's just a bunch of white people on stage. I don't connect with this at all.
Right.
And it wasn't until I was, quote unquote, forced to explore Shakespeare. And I'm just like, wow, like he made these plays for common folk. Right. This wasn't for, kings and queens and knights. Like this was for the common folk. And it's just a heightened text. The emotions are the same. The feeling is the same. It's kind of like how I look at like AAVE, or just like how me and my community, I have a certain way that I talk to other Black people that a lot of times only we understand. And it's like, yeah, it's literally just like that. It's just you're saying the same things. It's just in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that I know you were present for as part of your coaching was this phone call with Gary Logan.
Yeah. I love him.
And Gary Logan, for those of you who don't know, is a world-class expert in Shakespeare. He's a faculty member at Carnegie Mellon. He's a world-class director, and he ran an MFA program in DC. Anyway, he's a friend of mine, and he shared that one of the biggest barriers to Shakespeare is, like you just said, like everybody thinks these characters are some sort of like epic whatever, and they're not.
Yeah,
they are red-blooded human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And we can all connect with what they're doing and what they're wanting and what they're experiencing. So I love that you said that, and that you're in to Shakespeare. You had an in,
Yeah.
Really experience it. And it's great. I mean, obviously you're just at the beginning. You'll be uncovering so much.
Yeah. And it's funny how quickly you latch onto things when you relate them to your personal life. Kind of how I did with heightened text and AAVE and I know a Desdemona. I know a Iago.
Yeah.
I've been in Othello. It's just like, wow. And Gary was actually gracious enough to like hop on a call with me like after his text, because I literally just reached out. I just emailed him. And
You guys all need to take a note from Nick right about now. Just
well,
like be bold.
it's like literally the worst thing somebody can tell you is no. And then you're just right where you were. So it's like, you know, I've been lucky enough to always have the mentality where it's just like, I want somebody else to tell me no. I'm not going to tell myself no. I want somebody else to. And so it was one of those things. It was like, you know, Gary, he's Carnegie Mellon, like one of the best drama schools in the world. And, you know, he was already gracious enough to like, you know, lend his time to you. And I was just like, why not? And I just emailed him and he was just like, let's hop on a call. He didn't ask any questions.
That's
didn't
amazing.
ask any questions. And we spent like, you know, an hour going over my Shakespeare pieces. And it was just like, he didn't ask for, you know, anything other than my time. And then come to find out he's from Asheville. He's from the North Carolina.
That's right. He's from the Carolinas.
Yeah. And it was so amazing just because I put myself out there. And, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean every time somebody else reaches out to somebody that they're going to respond the way you want. But it's just like the right people will say yes at the right time.
That's exactly right. I agree. And I'm going to feel bad if Gary gets a bunch of emails now. But no, because yeah. Gary's time is extremely valuable, but he's an educator. At heart, he's an educator.
Yeah.
And he loves when people are hungry.
And
you know, clearly you are, and you were. So, all right. So now you're working on these pieces, right? You approach them the best you can based on your imaginative instincts and kind of your first whatever instinct. How do you refine these pieces? How do you find new layers? How do you really improve your quality of work on these pieces?
So I am a big fan of making sure your human cup is full. And what I mean by that is I'm already in therapy. I go to therapy regularly, probably once every 2 weeks, I would say. I journal a lot. And it was one of those things where I would take each piece and I would ask myself these questions, like, why? Why did I choose this piece? And kind of breaking the like text down line by line, and also reading these plays and reading them to their entirety and really understanding the story. Not necessarily focusing on my emotions at the very beginning when I'm refining, but more so understanding the story. Because when you understand the story, the emotions and everything just come natural. Us as actors, all we're really doing is just conveying the human emotion, and we're just vessels for the human state, the human, like the way of being. And so I was really doing a lot of work with just exploring my own self and doing meditations, because that helped me remain present, because that's like probably it has always been my Achilles heel, is just remaining present whenever I'm acting and in real life. Funny enough, in real life, a lot of things translate into acting if you don't work on them. So
dude, it's crazy. You're speaking straight out of like Stanislavski right here, because like Stanislavski was in the 1800s realizing that a lot of these people who were performing, and like what an actor was back then, was all about presentational, like like, oh, if I'm sad, that means I have to do this gesture and I have to like really in an elementary style, right, convey the emotions. Whereas he was like, you know, we should be more concerned with the inner life of a character and allow that to be the forefront, and the center of the experience should be the actor's inner life. So he would strip away sets and, you know, things like this, and just allow an experience to be like what's happening between two people. And the way you're speaking right now, like he really revolutionized a lot of that stuff. He talked about table work for the first time. He talked about, let's not jump to what it should be, let's actually just be with the story for a little bit
Yeah.
and let it marinate in your life a little
Yeah.
bit. And of course, other teachers have gone on to expand his things into different methods, but the core of what he was trying to do is just, it's great listening to you because it's kind of what, I don't know how you discovered to do that, but that's a really great approach, is to like, let the story, like sponge the story.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
And then bring yourself to it.
Yeah. I've always been a storyteller at heart. Even at a really young age, I was always the kid to raise his hand in school and just tell a story that had nothing to do with what we were learning at all. But you're like,
I got a story.
Yeah. But it like made sense to me as to why I was. And so it was like, I've always been very story driven and theme driven, because everybody reacts to different emotions in different ways. And so kind of what you were saying, where it's like, oh, okay, reading that this person is sad, oh, that means I have to cry or I have to XYZ. But that's not necessarily the emotions that the present may bring about. And you kind of want to be as genuine as you can when telling these stories.
Well, so with people like you and me, where we like love stories, we love like telling stories, we're kind of a little bit more extroverted like that, naturally or instinctually. There can be a tendency to want to project that story and to sort of want to share your idea of what you think this piece, how it should be landing on the audience. How did you, because that's not serving the story, that often gets in the way of good quality work. How did you resist that temptation to like want to like push your idea of what this should be out there and trust, your emotional state and trust what your character was trying to do and experience that?
Absolutely. That's a really great question. I think I just continue to remind myself that this is not about me. Like this I'm as us as actors, we get hired to be vessels. Sure. And not to be morbid or anything, but like that's a weird way to explain. I also talk a lot to myself out externally. I
like where you were going with it. I like where you're going.
But reminding myself the why, and reminding myself that this isn't about me. This isn't feelings that Nick has. These are feelings that, say the character's name is Christopher. Like, these are Christopher's thoughts. These are Christopher's feelings, because what happened in the previous scene, this is what leads him to believe XYZ. That's great. And really just keeping in mind that I'm serving the story.
Right. Yeah. Kevin Spacey, if I were to name drop, he came to do a workshop with us at school, and I was chosen to like be one of the actors in the workshop. And he said, all I want you to do is just be the current custodian. You're the current custodian of this story, of this character, and you just got to trust you, because if I brought someone else up here, they'd be doing it their way. So just trust like how you respond to it, and yada yada. So I think that's kind of also similar to what you're saying, is like, because you don't want to lose yourself, right? Obviously, what's funny is honoring the story and focusing on that this is not about me actually makes you shine brighter. And so it's a funny thing, because I think what a lot of panelists and faculty members say is like, the bad auditions are the ones where you feel like this person is not just loving the work. This person is like trying to project something to us as if like we should be getting some sort of other idea than just what's happening. And it sounds like that's what you're saying, is like, dive into the work, submit yourself to the story, and of course you shine.
Yeah. 100%.
So speaking of shining, I want to hear about your actual auditions.
Yes.
Right? Because not everyone goes perfectly and nerves are there. I want to hear about some of this stuff. Like take me to, I know you're all happy now because you know where you're going and everything's great, but like reverse a few months ago, talk to me about where you were at when you were going into these things.
Oh my God. My auditions did not go smoothly. It wasn't this happy, I'm like you said, I'm like smiling now, but it was okay. I'll kind of give you my like mindset, obviously this, let me like preface it with this worked for me. Right.
Hey, this is Nick's story, everybody. If you didn't know, now you know.
This worked for me. I knew that I wanted to have one or two schools that were lower on my list. I wanted to audition for them first because I knew that I was going to come in there either nervous, high energy. I didn't know what was going to happen. And so I kind of wanted to shake the nerves and get the kinks out with like my first one or two schools. I also did I ended up auditioning for 4 schools. I ended up doing all 4 of those auditions in like a matter of 5 days.
Wow. Okay, great.
So I did them back to back to back to back.
It was like audition week.
Yes. I do not recommend that for anybody that gets easily overwhelmed, because it can be very grueling, because you could be potentially going from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. and then you have to go to sleep and wake right up the next day and be on again. But the first school that I auditioned for, if you want me to say their names, I will.
Absolutely.
So the first squad I auditioned for was Juilliard. And I know a lot of people are like, well, Juilliard is the greatest, arguably the best school in the world for drama. Why was that your warm-up school? And I think for me, like I said, whenever I looked for drama schools, I wanted to find a school that I felt nurtured my individuality, as well as how they responded to things that didn't go according to plan in their own institution. Okay, like let's be honest, all of these institutions, Brown included, all of them were founded upon white supremacy. And right. So
there's some, for sure.
And so it's like, how is your school reckoning with that? And how do you move forward and continue to be a more inclusive environment? And so there's been things, in the past with a lot of these schools that has been very questionable to me. And I'm not the type of guy, I'm not the type of person to let things slide. And so long story short, I wanted, Juilliard to be first, because I knew that I didn't want to go. I knew that that wasn't even a school on my list. So I was like, yeah, I could just go in and try something if I wanted, just do whatever. And I came in hot, Anthony, like hot. Like as soon as
like you were just like high energy.
Yeah, it was like, I think I was so amped up and so excited about, it's like months and months of preparing. It's here now. And so I was just like, it was like one of those things where there's like a door in front of you and you're kicking the door down and you're running into it and you're beating it down. And somebody comes up and it's like, dude, the door was unlocked the whole time. All you had to do was just turn the knob. Like, and so it was like, needless to say, I did not make it past the first one. And it wasn't one of those like, man, I thought I did great. Like, I wonder, it was like, oh, okay, that's fair. Like, go back to the drawing board. Like, what worked, what didn't work.
You got your first school served its purpose.
Right. It did. My second school, the next day, it was Yale. And it it was one of those situations where Yale was the only school that still offered in-person auditions.
Right.
And that really excited me because it was like, okay, like this is the only school out of all my schools I get to audition in person. I flew to New York. They had you do the whole COVID thing and bring your vaccination card, and you had to have your negative test. And then we got there and they were like, oh, by the way, you're going to be masked the whole time. And you are not going to you're going to be some distance away from the panel, from the auditors. And Anthony, that infuriated me. It was one of those things where it was like, you could have told us this over an email, you know? It's like, why have people fly in from all over the world and promise them an in-person audition? It's like, I guarantee you, probably none of us had experience, you know, saying our pieces with masks on. And it really just threw me off my game because I just wasn't present. And after that, I was kind of disheartened. Like my energy started to
this is the roller coaster.
And the next school was UC Irvine. That audition went really solid, actually. And mind you, these 3 auditions, I did the same 2 pieces. I did The Taming of the Shrew, Petruchio's Act 2, Scene 1. And then I did The Vortex, Nikki's monologue.
Right.
And it got to the UC Irvine audition and they just didn't connect anymore. I didn't connect with those 2 pieces anymore. And it clearly showed. I made it to the interviewing portion at UC Irvine. And for them, it was like, okay, you audition and then they let you know a couple weeks later if you were invited to the callback or whatever.
Right.
And so after that one, Brown was my last audition. And I remember waking up and I was like, Nick, just have fun. Just have fun, dude. Like, remember why you're auditioning for these schools. Just have fun. Like, throw out everything that anybody has taught you. Throw out what Anthony's taught you. Throw out what John has taught you. Throw out what Daisy has taught you. Throw out what Terry, because you're thinking too much and you're trying to fit a square in a circle. And so literally, Anthony, the Brown audition, this worked for me. I did 2 completely new pieces. I had six monologues ready to go. And I highly recommend having 4 to 5 pieces that you absolutely love. Not just 2, and then maybe like your third, like you really love, but if they ask you to do a 4th piece, you're like, I don't really. Make sure all of them you can do like now, and you feel the same way about all of them. And so for Brown, I did Othello, Act 5, Scene 2, It Is the Cause, and then I did a play, a British play. Jesus Christ. It was Kiss Me Like You Mean It. Tony's monologue.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure, I think John might have told me about that play, but it's called Kiss Me Like You Mean It by Chris Chibnall. And it's Tony's monologue. I did those 2 because those 2 were the ones that I was feeling that day and that I really like connected with. I did them like once or twice before the Brown audition started. Just like probably like an hour or so before, I just was in my room just reciting them, and I was like, wow, these feel really good.
So you trusted yourself.
I trusted myself. And that is basically what I'm saying. It's like, I trusted my instincts and I told myself, Nick, if you don't do these 2 pieces, if you do the pieces that you've been doing, will you down the road look back on this moment and be like, oh, I should have did those two pieces. I should have went with my gut. It's like, if you know that's how you're going to feel, just do the two pieces. Don't worry about it. Because whether you get in or not, you're going to be proud that you listen to your heart.
Man, so you're like 3 schools down and hasn't gone particularly well for you. I can only imagine where you were at. And it's funny, like it almost feels as if, like, you know, if I were to illustrate it, it's like down, 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 and then just, oh, you know what? F it. And that allowed you to soar.
Yes.
And you know, because it's not like you hadn't put in the work.
Right.
You know, if you were not having put in the work and then you had that mindset of like, screw it, then it would have just been, you know, crazy.
Yeah,
probably. But because you had put in the work, you were sincere. You had a great work ethic, by the way. And now you can let it go.
Yeah.
And that actually serves the work so that the work can just be whatever it is in the room. And so tell us about what happened in the room.
Yeah. But just briefly, it's like, that's what happens when you prepare. You're able to kind of ride that wave down and then have these realizations and be able to go back up, because, you know, I've spent, you know, since March, April, all the way almost a year preparing. It allowed me to do that. Whereas if I started in December or November, I probably wouldn't have felt that way. I probably would have just did the same two pieces I did for the first 3 schools. Right. And so for the Brown audition, I get in the room and it's Rachel Christopher and Angela Brazil. So welcoming, so kind. They put me at ease because it felt like that they genuinely cared about me as a person, and they thanked me for my time. A lot of the other schools didn't do that. And they thanked me for being vulnerable and thanked me for putting myself out there. Before I even started the piece, it's just like, that's the tone that they set.
Nice.
And you're not always going to get that before performance, before an audition. You're not always going to get somebody that gives you permission to tell the story, but I'm so grateful that they did. And I did my Othello piece. I did Kiss Me Like You Mean It. And they gave me, Rachel gave me adjustments on Othello. And she told me, she was like, I really love how you actually gave the piece time. She's like, a lot of times actors tend to just speed through this thing. But she was just like, I also want you to keep in mind the urgency of the situation. And so giving the piece time, but also acknowledging the urgency. And so she gave me that note, and I did Othello again. And I did well enough that they sent me to another room. And this room, it was Kirk Columbus and Sophia Skiles. And this was, I would say, probably an hour or so after my initial audition. And I did the same 2 pieces. I wasn't too much in my head because it was like, Nick, you don't need to change anything up. Obviously what you did worked. So don't get too much in your head about maybe I do it this time. It's like, no, just be consistent. Just do the same thing. Take the notes that she gave to you, apply them, and do what you know how to do.
I love that. Like, utilize, if you just had a session that worked, right, and you felt like her note was useful for the piece, then now you have a better piece. Just keep it rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was the validation I needed to kind of just let loose a little more and like have fun a little more. And the second callback was kind of a blur, but I do remember as I'm doing Kiss Me Like You Mean It, I do remember Sophia and Kurt just on the floor, like dying laughing. And it was a comedy piece, but I did not play it as a comedy piece. And which kind of what we were talking about earlier, where it's just like, just because it's a comedy piece, you don't have to be grandiose or
just
you
the
don't
inner
have
life.
to, exactly. And I remember, because I'm talking in the play, I'm talking to a girl I just met at a party about how I want to spend my life with her. And I was serious.
That's a funny story.
I was serious about wanting to spend my life with her. But I was saying funny things, like I wanted to suck her toes and but I want to suck your toes. Like, seriously. Like, please let me suck your and so which just added another layer to the situation, added another layer to the
Love
character.
that.
And so after that, they asked me if I was available to stay until the end of day to do a group callback. And so that was like, I auditioned at like 10. I did the second one at, maybe 12. And then the group callback was at the end of the day because they had to see everybody for the day.
Right.
And so the group callback was around 7 p.m. And it was about 12 or 13 of us. I know that our auditions were in like 15-minute pockets, so people can do the math if they want, and so it was about 12 or 13 of us at the end of the day, and they split
us up. Did you guys just do individual walking, or did you do some sort of group activity?
We did a group activity, and so they split 13 of us into like groups of 3. And they gave us a prompt. They wanted us to close our eyes. And they read this poem by this African author. I cannot remember her name, but they read us this poem, and the poem basically talked about the beginning of time and evolution, if you will. That's what I interpreted it as. And then after they read us the poem, they told us, okay, in your group, here's a list of 7 things, and you have to apply at least 3 of the 7 things. And so number 1 was you all had to collectively look up for an extended period of time. The second thing was you all had to speak a different language, a language other than English, and whether that means whether that means the 3 of you speak 3 separate languages or you speak one language collectively. That's what that mean.
Right.
That's what that meant. And like another one was you had to sing, like your group had to sing a song, and another one was you each had to use an object. And so it was like a list of 7 things, but you had to use 3. And so they like split us up into our groups, into our own separate rooms. And they gave us like 10 minutes to like come up with a story that incorporated the like 3 things. And
so
they
you didn't have to recite, you didn't have to actually say the words of the poem, or you did have to say the words?
No.
Oh, you just got that as inspiration or something?
Yeah. So you had to tell the story of the poem without saying the words, which is why you had the 7 things, because you had to tell that story. And they like popped into our rooms occasionally with their video off, to hear us interact, because what they wanted to see was how well we worked together in a group setting, and how we interpret stories. And so I remember one girl in our group, she actually spoke an African language. And so that's what we used for the story. She like taught us like a little phrase that we could say, and it was very short and very, and very, very simple. And it's like another group, they all just happened to be Hispanic, and so they spoke Spanish, and it was really awesome to like see us come together and see everybody's different take on the exact same story.
Uh-huh.
And so after that, they were like, "Thank you so much." This was Brown's second day of audition, so Angela Brazil was just like, "Forget about us. Go on about your life, because we have a month and a half more of auditions." And it was just like,
Oh
oh God,
man.
okay. And so that's pretty much that was
That
pretty
was
much
it.
that was it.
That
It
was
was
it.
over just like that. It was over just like that.
Yeah, I know. It goes so fast.
Yeah.
But that's also an indication of how present you were.
Yeah.
Because, as much as you're able to recall your story and consciously remember everything, there's probably so much that you shared that you're not even aware of, because of how present you were and how playful you were. And I know that's the case for me as well. Like,
Mhm.
for those of us who got into these schools, you can only remember what you kind of consciously remember. But when
Yeah.
you're in an artistic mode, and you're actually in storytelling mode, and I should say like actor mode, where you're experiencing
Mhm.
something, yeah, I mean, you're literally just experiencing something. So it's
Yeah.
hard to like consciously look at yourself from outside. So so fun, man.
Yeah.
And then I want to hear about what happened like a month and a half later. I mean, where are you at mentally? Are you following up with them? Do you know that the date is still coming, or do you not even know if they're going to tell you?
Well, I made sure to have a plan if I didn't get into grad school that was equally as fun and exciting,
In true Nick
because
style.
because what can happen is when you set grad school as the goal, you tend to forget about life. You tend to forget about your life, and you're constantly refreshing emails. You're like pacing back and forth. You wake up and you're like, is this going to be the day? For me, if if I didn't get into grad school, I was going to travel the world for a year.
Okay.
Um,
Amazing.
I was actually in Thailand when COVID happened, and I was supposed to spend the year traveling Southeast Asia.
Wow.
But COVID happened, and I was in Thailand for a week, and then the U.S. Embassy was just like, you gotta get back. And so
Golly.
and so in that month and a half, I was like, okay, like let me start thinking about, potentially going back overseas for a year. And
Wow.
okay. So what does that look like? Like, what country do I go to first? And like, okay, like, do I want to audition next year if I don't get into any grad school? Is that an option? And I knew that I did. I knew that I wanted to try it again. But I was just as excited about my other plans. And that's not to say that I came up with the plan B because I didn't think I was going to get in. No, I just wanted to make sure that my life still went on. If grad school wasn't on the table.
That's so valuable.
Um, and so I remember the day that she said that they were gonna start calling people. It was on a Monday. I was driving. I was driving Monday afternoon, and I was just like, well, okay, I guess I'm just going overseas. It just didn't work out. That's okay. And literally, as I'm saying that's okay, my phone rings, and it's from an unknown number from Providence, Rhode Island, and it was Angela Brazil, and she offered me admission to Brown Trinity Rep, and I could not believe it. I'm a big person of just like internalizing everything. I just internalize it all, and so I remember my face was probably just like, "What just happened?" I didn't scream. I didn't scream. I didn't do anything. I just kind of chuckled because I couldn't believe it. Um, and meanwhile, Angela's on the other end, like, "Yay! Like, congrats!" I'm just, wow.
She's celebrating for you.
Yeah, and it just didn't compute.
Oh my God.
And
I'm plugging in my
and
computer.
so
Going.
yeah, for sure. And Brown does theirs a little differently, where they don't have a callback weekend. They pretty much know who they want off rip, like as soon as people audition. And so how their weekend is called Welcome Weekend. And so the 10 actors that they chose, they fly you up to Providence and you get to see a student show, a student run show. You get to see a production at Trinity Rep, and you get to take a couple classes with professors and hang out with
This
current
is just like
students.
welcome. This is not a callback weekend. This is like, we are excited to
This
have
this
you.
is
Come on down.
Yep, this is this. It's like these are the 10 that we want, and we want to show you how great our program is. They also know in mind that some students that they choose have other schools that they're considering,
Yeah.
and they're also very much aware of that. I know one guy who was a part of the 10 of us. He chose to go to a different school at the end of the day. But yeah, it's very much a welcome weekend, and we
So
want
awesome.
you. And you don't have to fly up here and be nervous all weekend, because
It's official.
we want you. It's
That's
official.
amazing, dude.
Yeah.
Well, this is such an awesome story. Thank you for sharing.
Of course.
And like, when you look back at everything you've gone on, it's been a year, right?
Yeah.
On this journey of drama school auditions, right? And the whole drama school audition experience.
Mm-hmm.
Try to synthesize it all for someone. Give it, what was your biggest takeaway from this experience, besides, of course, getting in and knowing where you're going to spend the next few years, but like, for you as an artist, like, what did you get out of this?
That I really love the process, and you have to be in love with the process, and you have to realize that being an artist is extremely subjective, and it means a bunch of different things. And this is just I'll always look at life as like tree branches, and this is just one twig out of your tree branch of life, and this is just one route that you can go. That and with the mix of water, sun, aka work, preparation, if you just allow yourself to be patient and flow with life, it's like there's no telling, where you'll be. It's like when I started this drama school journey, I always just wanted to keep in mind that I'm an actor, I'm an artist, whether I get in or I don't. And sometimes it's hard when you're in an industry where you constantly have to prove your worth and prove that you can still do the thing. Just reminding yourself that life goes on, that at the end of the day, this is just a job, and you do it because you love it, not for the end result, not for a certain result. You genuinely do it because you love it. And I knew personally, whether I got in or not, that wasn't going to stop my acting journey. I was going to figure out another way. And whether that means lighting a fire up under my butt and start creating my own stuff. I mean, it's like I'm still a writer. I'm still, I still write things. And luckily for Brown, it's like your first year, you're able to take directing courses and playwriting courses, which I'm really excited about. But it's like I knew that this wasn't the one-stop shop, and this wasn't the end-all be-all, and that really relieved a lot of pressure from me, and allowed me to just play and to just fail miserably, fail, like be so excited about failure. That's also one thing that I would say. be excited about failure and be excited about messing up, because you're going to over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. That's just a part of it.
Yeah,
That's a
man.
part of it.
I know. Sometimes people laugh at me who are not like artists, friends of mine, because like I just embrace looking stupid or saying the wrong thing, or, because how else are you gonna find out? How else are you gonna explore? How else are you gonna discover what it is that, you're ideally going for here, or what the best, most fun option is, whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Yeah. People don't understand duality, where it's like they want the success and they want the validation, but it's like that doesn't come without heartache and struggle and failing and not knowing how to do something. It's just like these schools aren't looking for you to be perfect. They're just looking for you and looking for potential. And it's like a lot of things, especially when it's acting and career, a lot of it's not up to us. It's not up to me whether or not I graduate and become this big star, this big celebrity, this incredible actor who's on all the billboards. That's not up to me. I have zero control over that. What I do have control over, though, is telling a great story and embodying a character and being true to the character and true to myself. That's literally all that I have control over. And so that's all that I need to worry about. And that's all you need to worry about.
And frankly, like your audition experience kind of reveals that truth, because you were actually focused on that in the Brown audition. Whereas with the others, you were kind of focused on some other things, or for whatever reason, which are totally natural. But this is an awesome illustration, and we all relate to it. So I really appreciate you sharing. And I mean, I know we're in touch, so we'll obviously stay in touch. But if you ever want to share anything again with our audience, you always have a platform here with anything. Yeah. So
absolutely.
What an awesome journey. And I can't wait for you to go to Brown, man. It's going to be amazing.
Thank you so much. Can my dog say hey? Really
yes,
quickly?
Let's meet your dog.
Gotta hurry because I'm on a time crunch here.
Oh,
jeez. Say hey, Winnow.
Hey.
Hello. I hope this brings joy and laughter to somebody who's distraught over their auditions or feels hopeless. Just remember Winnow's face, because she loves everybody unconditionally.
Oh, she is so sweet. Hi, Winnow.
And now
there you go. She wants to stay in the frame.
Jesus Christ. Anyway.
We'll have fun with Winnow, man. It's been awesome. We'll talk soon.
We'll talk soon. Thank you so much.
All right, Nick. Have a great night.